Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. So glad that you've joined us this morning. We have a lot to cover. The big breaking story. Hamas has accepted Trump's peace plan, ending essentially 2 years of war in Gaza and returning hostages. We're going to talk about that here in just a second. Not all of the details, just give you a quick overview. Then we're going to dive in depth a little bit later on in the program because we have a lot of updates to get to, some catch up from the last couple of days' programs. First, let's go to some viewer comments. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. Trump says Chicago's mayor and Illinois governor should be jailed in response to ICE and the National Guard. And the governor of Illinois says Trump has dementia. He gets something in his head and can't get it out. We mentioned the dementia part yesterday on the program. It was breaking story right before the end of the show. And then after the show, Trump said that they should be jailed for the job that they're doing in their cities and states. So yes, that we covered it a little bit yesterday. We're going to cover it a little bit more today. Continuing with what Mark had to say, the Senate Republicans confirm over 100 Trump nominees. We mentioned that yesterday, one being friend of Frankly Speaking, Herschel Walker, who joined us, on site. We were at the Kyle Petty charity ride, and we had a nice conversation with him. I got to ask him, I wonder if I can find that, got to ask him what he thought of the, at that point, nomination to be ambassador of the Bahamas. Now he is the ambassador to the Bahamas, so exciting news there. Glad that he could be on the show. And finally, Mark writes, and illegal crossings at the U.S.-Mexican border are at the lowest level since 1970. Awesome. Keep them out, says Mark. Yes, I don't think we actually got to that last one. I had it in my stack of paperwork yesterday. I think we ran out of time. But yes, lowest levels since 1970. Remarkable. Comment from a different viewer. This is from Farmer John. Good morning, Farmer John. I'll believe it when I see it on the Israeli hostage deal. I'm sure Trump has his guard up after Putin's slap in the face while meeting with him in Alaska. I would say it's a huge step in the right direction. I know we're all cautiously optimistic or trust but verify. That's maybe the scenario we're in right now, but can only be looked at as a positive step as of this morning. And finally, this came in right at the end of yesterday's program, and I missed it, and I apologize. This viewer writes, I believe that not only judges should be held accountable for letting criminals run free, but that the left-wing media should also be held accountable for misleading or outright lies. And we have some examples of the media this morning. And speaking of that, I wasn't going to jump ahead because I want to talk about Israel, but you raise a good point about these judges, and a lot of people have said so, that there should be some type of repercussion. Karen had that great quote yesterday from Thomas Sowell. Listen to this. An illegal immigrant who killed a University of South Carolina student in a horrific hit-and-run accident or crash was quietly, and that's how this typically goes, quietly handed a slap-on-the-wrist sentence over the summer, even though this tragedy sparked national outrage. Coming from the New York Post, Rosali Fernandez Cruz, 24 years old, has been serving out his 1-year stint at Kirkland Correctional Institute in Columbia since August, when 3 of his charges were discreetly dropped. You heard me right. 3 of the charges were discreetly dropped, and he pleaded guilty to the remaining most serious count for killing 21-year-old Nathaniel Baker. A spokesperson for the Attorney General of South Carolina, Alan Wilson, said the judge decided the sentence, which was 1 year, adding that Baker's forgiving family was consulted before the lenient sentence was given and wanted to keep the agreement hush-hush. Yes, for that senseless, horrific, tragic hit-and-run crash that killed 21-year-old Nathaniel Baker, Rosali Fernandez Cruz received a 1-year stint. Now, the family, again, of Baker said they did not want this to be politicized, or highly publicized. They were in agreement with the guilty plea and sentence. Fernando Cruz, a native of El Salvador, who has been on the run from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement since 2018, was also credited with 131 days served despite fatal hit and runs carrying up to a 25-year maximum sentence in the Palmetto State. He is expected to walk free on March the 2nd, 2026. Now you may say, well, that's a little ways away. Nope. This is October 9th of 2025, March 2nd, 2026, right around the corner. Unbelievable. And sadly, we have example after example of this. It's unclear whether he will be deported back to El Salvador once his jail term is complete. DHS and ICE did not immediately respond. So tying in with that viewer's point, the judges, and tying in with Karen's quote yesterday, which was such, I should have, as I keep saying, Karen's quote, I should have, here we go. Nope, I thought I had it right handy. It's by Thomas Sowell. She sent it in yesterday. It is hard to imagine a more stupid or more dangerous way of making decisions than by putting those decisions in the hands of people who pay no price for being wrong. Thank you for that, Karen. It fits in perfectly with that. Somewhat breaking news. It was hush. There we go. Over the summer, and we finally learned about it today. But let's get to the big breaking news. Hamas has agreed to a peace deal pushed by President Trump to end the war in Gaza and return the hostages 2 years after the terrorist network attacked Israel on October 7, 2023, sparking not only the bloodiest day for Jews since the Holocaust, but a deadly war and a humanitarian crisis across the Gaza Strip. Now, you noticed we talked yesterday about the anti-Israel protests in the street of New York. We have a couple other quick examples of that where they led to violence. Willfully, and we hear it from Democrat pundits all the time, or Democrat supporters all the time, where they ignore the fact that the war was started by Hamas and wants to, of course, blame Israel first. It's the blame Israel, blame America first crowd. But we don't need to relitigate that. Trump took the Truth Social late yesterday to make this announcement, and I quote, "I'm very proud to announce that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of our peace plan. This means that all of the hostages will be released very soon, and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps towards a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly. This is a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel and all surrounding nations, and the United States of America. And we thank the mediators from Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey who worked with us to make this historic and unprecedented event happen. Blessed," and this is in all caps, "blessed are the peacemakers." Now, he spoke to Sean Hannity last night, and he expects the hostages, this meaning President Trump, expects the hostages to be released on Monday. He did not elaborate on whether he would be going to the region. There was speculation that he may visit the Middle East, though a time frame hasn't been given on that. Some have reported as early as this weekend. Netanyahu did invite him to address the Israeli parliament on Sunday. Moments before the president's announcement, photos emerged from the negotiation room showing senior officials embracing and shaking hands as reports indicate significant progress towards a hostage release deal. I will say timing on this is very fascinating, isn't it? Not reading anything questionable into it at all. I didn't mean it to sound like that. But this happening Thursday, when the Nobel Peace Prizes or the Nobel Peace Prize is to be announced tomorrow. Again, I think we've all been pretty clear. I haven't seen anybody disagree with me on my opinion, but I would love to hear your opinion, that Trump will not receive a Nobel Peace Prize. I am more than happy to eat crow tomorrow if the report comes out and Trump did win one. But that organization has become too far left. I would just have you Google search something as simple as Obama's Nobel Peace Prize, which he received so quickly into his first term that even he was a little reluctant about it. No real signs of peace, clearly, from the Obama administration at the beginning or through the two terms. So Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said in a statement, "With God's help, we will bring them all home. A great day for Israel. Tomorrow I will convene the government to approve the agreement and bring all our dear hostages home. I thank the heroic soldiers of the IDF and the security forces. Thanks to their courage and sacrifice, we have reached this day. I thank from the bottom of my heart President Trump and his team for mobilizing for this sacred mission of freeing our hostages. With God's help, together we will continue to achieve all our objectives and expand peace with our neighbors. In an official statement from Hamas, which you would not normally see me reading on this program, but worth mentioning in the context of this breaking story, after responsible and serious negotiations conducted by the movement and the Palestinian resistance factions regarding President Trump's proposal in Sharm el-Sheikh, with the aim of ending the war of extermination against our Palestinian people and the withdrawal of the occupation from the Gaza Strip, Hamas announces the reaching of an agreement that ends the war on Gaza, provides for the withdrawal of the occupation, allows the entry of aid, and implements a prisoner exchange. Now, I can go back to what Farmer John said, the kind of the cautious optimism. You see the rhetoric in their statement. That's why I mention it. Of course, that's why I trust but verify. Be cautiously optimistic because you still see the loaded language that they're using. Continuing, we greatly appreciate the... Wait, is this it? Well, yes. We greatly... Hamas here. Continuing with Hamas. We greatly appreciate the efforts of the mediators in Qatar, Egypt, and Turkey, and thank U.S. President Donald Trump for his efforts to bring about a final end to the war and the full withdrawal of the occupation from the Gaza Strip. We call on President Trump, the guarantor states of the agreement, and all Arab, Islamic, and international parties to oblige the government of the occupation to fulfill the agreement's commitments and not to allow it to invade or delay implementation of the accords. So that's your quick overview. In the next segment, we are going to... I want to hear your thoughts on it. Obviously coming on the eve, well, technically the eve, because it was announced last night, of the announcement for the Nobel Peace Prize. Your thoughts, has that changed your overall opinion on whether or not Trump will receive the Nobel Peace Prize? When we come back, we've got some updates, some quick stories that we just have to get to, kind of some filling in of some questions we had on yesterday's show, a couple things here about the media. Then we'll talk more about this peace deal and what others are saying. I do have some updates on the Democrat Party in general. You may have seen some of it, we have the various candidates and some of the things they've been trapped in on the Democrat side of what they've said, what they've been recorded as saying. We'll talk about that as well, and a few New York State updates. Also, very excited to announce, I talked about it yesterday in the program, Kat Flint will be our guest in the 7 o'clock hour. Kat is from Addison, and she is making her way in Nashville, Tennessee, and doing quite remarkable in the country scene. We're going to hear all about her career. She's been in Nashville now around 4 years. You can find out more about her, about how you can get her upcoming, it's not out yet, but her upcoming EP, how things are going in Nashville, and her single that will be coming out, or that is out on social media, about Addison. So even if you're not an Addison resident, but if you are, welcome. Even if you're not, I think it's always hometown girl makes good, and we're excited to hear from her in the 7 o'clock hour. On tomorrow's broadcast, get your questions in. We'll be talking with Debbie Shannon. She is running for Steuben County Legislature in District 12, which is Irwin. She is on the Democrat ticket, and her opponent, James Kuhl, will be on the program. He is the incumbent. He'll be on the program next week. And I will update you on the exact day. So get your questions in for both candidates. All right, let's take a short break. Just getting warmed up, but I can feel it. It's going to be a good show. On the heels of the announcement, if you are just waking up, that Hamas has accepted Trump's peace plan, essentially ending 2 years of war. It is interesting when you see how various media outlets try to twist it. Some say the peace plan ending the 2-year war. Others saying it's a truce. Others, just depending on what outlet you go to. There's going to be a lot of people that don't want to celebrate it for various reasons. For political reasons, which is the worst reason they don't want to celebrate it. But there's going to be people that don't want to celebrate it because they want to be, again, cautiously optimistic. And I think that's healthy. So let's take that break before I get on to another tangent. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Comment from a viewer: how in the heck could they not award the Nobel Peace Prize to Trump now and not look so obviously biased to the world? I don't really think. It's kind of like the CNNs and the MSNBCs and the mainstream media in general. I don't think they care about the bias, as long as they get to push their agenda, push their narrative. I don't personally, and I understand your sentiment. I'm not saying it like that. I just don't see, again, happy to eat crow tomorrow morning. I don't see a scenario where he receives the Nobel Peace Prize. I just don't. All right, a couple quick stories to breeze through this morning. Get ready, folks. Ready for a flashback? A county in California, deep blue California, in their wine country, is beefing up its vaccine recommendations and is installing a mask mandate, citing, and I quote, greater risk of contracting COVID-19 amid the start of the annual flu season. A little bit of flashback there. Facilities subject to the order include skilled nursing facilities. Huh? Cuomo, did you hear that? Portions of long-term care facilities where nursing care is provided, acute and non-acute rehabilitation facilities, infusion centers, and dialysis centers. Quote, the rationale behind this order is to protect the most vulnerable populations, such as the elderly and cancer patients, and to try to prevent medical staff from getting sick and creating staffing problems for facilities. Just something that came across my desk this morning. A little bit of a flashback. All right, this is going to surprise you. No way I'm segueing in this segment, or perhaps the next segment either. This may shock you a little bit. You may have forgotten about this story. The last remaining fugitive who was part of a group of New Orleans jail inmates that escaped earlier this year was involved in a standoff with authorities in Atlanta. Derek Groves was taken into custody following the incident. So the last remaining New Orleans jail escapee has been captured after that 5-month manhunt. I'm not being critical of law enforcement here at all. I had forgotten about this story. I guess I had assumed at some point it was all cleaned up. Groves, who is 28, a 4-time convicted killer who has been on the run for 5 months, and 9 other inmates escaped on May the 16th. Orleans Parish District Attorney Jason Williams said, I was deeply concerned that someone that had been convicted of a double homicide and was supposed to be in Angola would not go easily. I was afraid there would be loss of life, whether it be civilian or law enforcement. And I don't think we thank Derek Groves for that. I think we thank God for that he was taken into custody without incident. There you are. Also, another story, long time in the making. A Florida man has been charged with maliciously starting the Palisades fire and was trying to cover his tracks the whole time. The most destructive inferno in Los Angeles history. And we know Karen Bass, the mayor, and we know Governor Gavin Newsom, though this is forgotten by the media. Disastrous job in this, was highly criticized at the time. But now, because Gavin Newsom copying Trump's style, I don't know if he's still doing it, but copying Trump's style on social, became a star yet again, forgetting about the destruction and the lack of preparation. But I will continue. And we heard that they're not increasing salaries of the fire department recently, and there's some other cutting some type of funding. Anyway, so he was an Uber driver, Jonathan Rindernet. He was accused of starting the initial fire on New Year's Day that rekindled to become the Palisades fire days later. He was arrested Wednesday in Florida and charged with destruction of property by means of fire, which carries a minimum of 5 years in federal prison. I would hope that he could receive a little bit more than that. I guess he started a fire, went out, but didn't go out completely. It rekindled and started the fire. He was also, for whatever reason, going on and creating dystopian images on ChatGPT depicting a burning city with people trying to flee. So Rinderket called 911 to report the fire, then offered to help firefighters battle the blaze. We see a little bit of a firebug, not a little bit, a lot of firebug arson in this person. While we cannot undo the damage and destruction that was done, we hope his arrest and the charges against him bring some measure of justice to the victims of this horrific tragedy. So there we are with that update. I guess when he originally called the 911, when he started it, he said something like, can I get charged with throwing a cigarette up? But it was more than that. He actually tried, he did light this fire. So there you are. There's another update. Let's keep going with updates. No, we got to take a short break because I see some comments coming in. I want to read those when we come back. I do have 3-4 other quick, more than that probably, updates, and then we'll talk more about the peace deal. Trump announcing Israel and Hamas have signed off on phase 1 of the Gaza peace deal. That is a major breaking story this morning if you are just joining us right on the eve, because it was announced last night, of the Nobel Peace Prize announcement, a step in the right direction. They'll trust but verify, be cautiously optimistic, but peace be, or what is it? Blessed be the peacemakers, as Trump said in his social media post yesterday. So it is something to be grateful for, but also something to wait and see. Hostages could be released as early, according to Trump, as early as Monday. Let's take a short break. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street Courting. Tons of comments coming in. I can't tell you how much I appreciate this. Let's get right to it. The leftist air traffic controllers calling out sick should be punished after the Schumer shutdown. That they've missed a check, they can't just... Or let me try that again. After the Schumer shutdown, they haven't missed a check. They just want chaos. Well, yes, they will receive a check and they get all that money for back time when the government reopens. Yeah, they do want chaos. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy urging them to get back to work, saying, I'm encouraging air traffic controllers to show up for work because there has been delays, numerous delays. They need to go to their jobs. They need to control the airspace. He acknowledged that air traffic controllers could express some rebellious behavior over the current situation, but said they would be paid once the shutdown ends. They are stressed out. They are wondering, how do they put food on the table? How do they pay their mortgages if their paycheck doesn't come through? So I do believe there's a lot of people that are being rebellious to cause that chaos. I would agree. Okay, comment from other viewers. Let's keep going. The phrase, blessed be the peacemakers, is from the Beatitudes. Yes, I know I flubbed it a little bit. I apologize. But yes, that's why I thought it was very appropriate, very apropos for Trump to use it in his social media post. And I like that being in there. I thought it was a great way. And I thought Netanyahu's statement was very moving as well. And we're going to talk about it more in depth a little bit later on. Comment from a different viewer. I think I heard on the news this morning that Hochul is again following the lead of California and is pushing the use of the COVID vaccine. Probably. Maybe she should get Frankie Focus involved. We pay good money for that mascot. We don't just need to use it for cell phone bans, but that would not surprise me. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, hey, good morning. Last night, as I watched the evening news, the big story, 10 minutes before the big story, was how a reporter could read the note that Rubio passed to Trump about the big story. What amazing analytical journalism we have. Someone should get an award. I saw an article about that. I didn't really, because it has since been announced, I didn't read the whole story, but I saw that that's, I guess, a new thing that reporters are trying to do, and I know the White House has got to be aware of this at this point. But where they'll try to read what someone's cell phone says or what a note says. So yes, that's journalism, huh? The big story before the big story, right before the commercial break and the weather. All right, thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. Trump is 8-0-1 on peace. Hopefully he can break the stalemate in Ukraine. No other president has ever achieved so much in so little time. considering he has more enemies in our own government fighting everything he does. That's a very good point. Everything Trump does comes from such pushback from, unfortunately, we know the Democrats, but also very often sometimes Republicans. So you're right. But also in so little time, you raise a good point. People don't realize, and a little bit of this is because of the Trump news cycle. I'm not going to deny that, which is constant. People don't realize, what's it been? 10 months? Since he's been, not even a full 10 months, since he's been sworn in. So how much he's accomplished, how much he's done, it's very, very remarkable, especially when he's fighting many instances, as we see with the government shutdown, our own government in Washington. Comment from a different viewer, and I'm going to read this later on as well. Farmer John writes in, Cat Flint with the blue-eyed soul band backing her, blew the folks away at the barn earlier this summer. She is a gem in every way. Her voice, her showmanship, and her family. All in all, a wonderful experience. Thank you, Farmer John. We're actually, and I got your other comment. I would have said hello. We did it over Zoom yesterday. She's a very busy person, and I wanted to be as accommodating as possible. So she is in Nashville. We recorded it yesterday, and we are going to broadcast it today. If you're wondering what we're discussing, if you're just waking up, around 7:20. Yes, that is the street sweeper in the background, if you can hear it. But we are going to be talking with Cat Flint from Addison. She is making her way in Nashville, doing an amazing job. And she's going to have a new EP coming out very shortly. We're going to hear all about it. You're going to hear all about her career and her goals, and just a super, super nice person. But I'm going to save, I know I already read it once, Farmer John, but I want to save it for after we do the interview as well, so I can clip those together and include it in a part of the YouTube video, if you don't mind. All right. See some other comments coming in. We'll read those in the next segment. Here's one that probably should have made it into the broadcast before 6:31 a.m. A stoic former FBI director, James Comey, pleaded, you guessed it, not guilty yesterday to a federal charge of lying to Congress 5 years ago. Comey, who is 64 years old, also denied a charge of obstruction of justice tied to the long-running probe into alleged collusion between President Trump's 2016 presidential campaign and Russian officials. His trial is now set for January 5th, 2026. He was clad in a dark blue suit, stared straight ahead toward U.S. District Judge Michael Nachmanoff during the 30-minute hearing at the Albert v. Bryan courthouse. Comey's lawyer, former Chicago U.S. Attorney Patrick Fitzgerald, entered the not guilty plea on his client's behalf. Comey only spoke to say, I do, Your Honor, when asked if he understood the charges. Fitzgerald said, my client is anxious to get a speedy trial. Both Fitzgerald and prosecutor Nathaniel Tyler Lemons asked for a slightly delayed trial schedule, with Lemons citing a large amount of evidence in the case and claiming we're just getting our hands around the discovery as well. Now, keep in mind, Judge Nachmanoff is an appointee of former President Joe Biden. He agreed to the slight postponement, but added that he was a little skeptical about Lemons' characterization. The judge said the case wasn't overly complicated and had a discrete set of facts. But Lemons argued that there was a significant amount of classified information, while Comey's defense team acknowledged only one of their attorneys currently has a clearance to look at those documents. In response, Nachmanoff promised to go through the fastest classified document review process you've seen in your lives. Sounds a little antsy. Sounds like he wants to get away from that. So yes, coming as no surprise, ex-FBI Director James Comey insisting he is innocent. There you are. Those are some of the breaking stories. Oh, and I wanted to mention this before we go to break. Then two more updates and then back to the discussion of the peace deal. But the New York Post editorial board asks a wonderful question, a very important question. Spying on United States senators and a congressman, what else did the Justice Department do in the Biden years? It may not be, quote, worse than Watergate, I don't know, as Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley suggested, but Biden's FBI's move to secretly pull the phone records of 9 Republicans in Congress, including 8 sitting senators, sets a recent new low in partisan abuse of law enforcement. The Justice Department's Arctic Frost investigation was launched in April of 2022 by Assistant Special Agent in Charge Timothy Thibault, reportedly a vicious anti-Trump partisan, before Special Counsel Jack Smith, same, took over that November and officially began as a probe into 2020 election interference before turning into a sprawling snare. Current Justice and FBI leadership only stumbled onto the abuse recently and have yet to say why the Biden crew targeted Senator Lindsey Graham, Bill Hagerty, Josh Hawley, Dan Sullivan, Tommy Tuberville, Ron Johnson, Cynthia Loomis, Marsha Blackburn, and Representative Mike Kelly. Yes, after the 2020 vote, they all raised concerns about potential voter fraud or supported President Trump's post-election lawsuits. But lots of others in Congress did as well. Worse, Arctic Frost morphed into FBI scrutiny of at least 92 right-wing groups and individuals, including Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA. While Smith was formerly independent, the Justice Department still has a duty to rein in special counsel who go witch hunting and secretly pulling the phone records of Republicans elected simply because they were Republicans is erroneous beyond the pale. Was Attorney General Merrick Garland under orders to look the other way? FBI Director Kash Patel says he's fired a handful of agents over Operation Arctic Frost's stunning invasion of privacy, but Congress plainly needs to subpoena Smith, former FBI Chief Christopher Wray, and anyone else who enabled these abuses. It was bad enough when no one paid a price after the Obama CIA got caught spying on the Senate Intelligence Committee in 2014. Remember, the Senate Intelligence Committee oversees the CIA. You remember that story with Obama? Well, if you watch the mainstream media, you probably don't. And as Grassley warns, if heads don't roll in this town, nothing changes. I thought that was a very good piece by the New York Post. All right, when we come back, I wanted to tell you what I learned about Marjorie Taylor Greene. We talked about her in passing yesterday. I don't like it. The CNN is now focused on her in a quote-unquote positive way that normally sends a red flag to me that she is bucking the Republican Party. We'll tell you a little bit about that. And then two stories that we've just been bringing to you all week, three that are just worth one quick, basically, sentence. Then back to the Israel and Hamas Phase 1 Gaza peace deal. Stay with us. Wow, a lot of comments coming in. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Let's go to some viewer comments. Mark writes in, come get your flu and COVID shot in New York from Frankie Focus. I like it. You can see the public service announcements already. Frankie Focus. Hey, we spent the money on the mascot, and they are hiring actors for the job. Why not? Comment from a different viewer. Now that Trump is fixing everything and creating peace, the left is going to have to stop the proxy protest and just protest America. Well, essentially, that's what, in many cases, you're right. That's what they were doing anyway. I mean, how many times were American flags burned at these protests? This will not stop the anti-Semitic protests. This will not stop the anti-Israel protests. They're not going away. They're not going to all of a sudden see the light and say, wow, look what Trump did. We all know that. I'm not telling you anything you don't already know. A comment from a different viewer. President Trump reacts to historic Israel-Hamas peace deal on Hannity last night, saying, this is more than Gaza. This is peace in the Middle East. That's an incredible thing. Yes, the language he's been using, whether in the interview with Hannity or on True Social, has been very moving. It will be interesting to see, again, this is on the eve, because it was announced yesterday, of the Nobel Peace Prize announcement. So you add that on top of his other successes, it'll be interesting to see which direction they go. Comment from a different viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. What do you think of Lawler's confrontation with Jeffries? Oh, you're bumping me ahead in my stack of paperwork. So I was not prepared for this. A screaming match erupted. Now, let's give a little background for those of you who aren't familiar. Hakeem Jeffries we know all about. He's the House Minority Leader. He has been very outspoken. He wants to be, because he started to finally receive pushback from the resistance, meaning the far left in the Democrat Party. So he's trying to be more aggressive. Mike Lawler, who at one time was being thrown around as a potential candidate for governor here in New York, but then Trump comes out and endorses him for Congress, which is a signal, hey, don't run for governor. And he decides he's not going to run for governor, opening that pathway for Elise Stefanik. Mike Lawler, and I don't say this in a derogatory tone or a negative way, he would be what you'd consider a more moderate Republican. He will not always agree with his fellow Republicans, okay? So to go after him is kind of interesting, or to get in the screaming match with Mike Lawler. But tensions erupted, says Elizabeth Elkind. Representative Mike Lawler confronted Hakeem Jeffries after a news conference, Hakeem Jeffries' news conference, over a bipartisan compromise on enhanced Obamacare subsidies. He also taunted Jeffries about whether he would endorse Zohran Mamdani for mayor of New York. Jeffries, of course, did not answer. Jeffries has been very, for lack of a better word, cowardly over the Mamdani endorsement. There's been a lot of criticism of him and Chuck Schumer for not endorsing. Hochul was quick. We may talk about that later on, because Elise Stefanik sees an opening there with Hochul's endorsement of Mamdani. Jeffries responded, first of all, I don't answer to you. You don't even answer to yourself. Ooh, he wasn't ready for this confrontation. If that's the best Hakeem Jeffries had, hey, are you going to endorse Zohran Mamdani? First of all, I don't answer to you. You don't even answer to yourself. Okay. The heated exchange began with Lawler challenging Jeffries to sign on to bipartisan legislation extending COVID-19 pandemic-era enhancements to Obamacare subsidies for 1 year, so then they can have the negotiation on the budget and actually have the negotiation and the conversation about in general, the extension. We've got a 1-year extension. Why don't you sign on right now? Lawler asked. Jeffries, who was angry in his response, said, did you get permission from your boss? Did your boss, Donald Trump, give you permission? Which Lawler responded, he's not my boss. And I would argue he's not. I mean, Lawler is someone that does not always, and makes pretty crystal clear, does not always agree with Trump. So for Hakeem Jeffries, it just goes to show you in the Democrat Party, there is the knee-jerk response to certain things. You know, Republicans are going to starve grandma and grandpa. They're going to whatever. You know all the, there goes Social Security. Everybody's afraid of Trump, which I think is the weakest argument they all make. But I'll continue. Not the weakest, they're all weak, but I'm saying it's just such a weak argument because it puts into people's minds that, oh, they're just scared of Trump. No, they just support what Trump's doing. There's a clear difference, but I'll continue. The two men spoke over each other for nearly 5 minutes. Jeffries at one point saying, you're an embarrassment. So imagine saying, okay, you want compromise. And because let's face it, Mike Lawler's bipartisan bill here, and it's others are signed on to it. Not a huge MAGA bill. Well, let's put it that way. It's extending this for a year is not something many MAGA people would be cheering in the street. So when you have what is a bipartisan, pretty moderate negotiation starting point, Hakeem Jeffries clearly, I think, realizing that they're on the losing side of this proposition, no matter what their rhetoric and their propaganda that they're sending to the mainstream media says. I think Hakeem Jeffries is, with that voice and anger, realizing he's losing the battle. Mike Lawler said, I voted for a tax cut bill that gave the largest tax cut to Americans in history, including, by the way, the average New Yorker getting a $4,000 tax cut. Are you against that? Jeffries responded again, which seems to be his talking points. You're embarrassing yourself. The largest cut to Medicaid in American history, you voted for that. The House Democrat leader pointed his finger into Lawler's chest. Wow. Telling him, you're not going to talk to me and talk over me because you don't want to hear what I have to say. So why don't you just keep your mouth shut? With Lawler retorting, oh, is that the way you talk? I just got to say, and it's not for any political reasons. Normally, what's the saying? If you're shouting, if you're the one shouting, if you're the one poking someone in the chest, you're probably losing the debate. You probably realize you're on the wrong side of things. Lawler's saying, you wanted Republicans to be here, I'm here. And by the way, you can pass an Affordable Care Act extension right now, sign on to the bill. So again, Hakeem Jeffries, I just think it shows he's not up to the task. And I'm not just being rude to be rude. I think that from the beginning of when he signed on, he doesn't have, kind of like I talk about Kathy Hochul, just is not to that level of, he's gotten to a level where he's just not prepared for it. Because his next line was, Mike, is your boss Donald Trump behind it? Jeffries then asking one point, are you mathematically challenged, bro? Maybe, we'll give Jeffries the benefit of the doubt, wasn't prepared for it, I suppose. But the keep your mouth shut, you're an embarrassment. Did your boss Trump set you up to this? Just not. Lawler was pushing him to sign something that most MAGA Republicans would not be overly happy about. So my thoughts on it, kind of a pathetic showing from Jeffries. Again, maybe suggesting that are a little concerned about the optics. They want to see, he had a press conference, Jeffries, so he wants to just push his narrative, push his talking points. And when Lawler steps in and kind of takes the spotlight off of that press release and puts it on what is a bipartisan negotiation and shows that, again, the Democrats could end this at any time, I think, and should end it. It's their shutdown. I think that's when Hakeem Jeffries decided to get angry. All right, we've got a lot of comments coming in. We'll read them when we come back. Stay with us. We're having a blast this morning. Thank you, everybody, for joining us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. A couple comments from viewers. Sorry to say this, but this is in regards to the peace plan in the Middle East. There's been killings ever since the days of Jesus. Do you think they will stop now? Well, I think, again, trust but verify, hope. Be cautiously optimistic. I mean, any direction towards peace is not a bad thing and should be looked at as a step in the right direction. Maybe not the final step, but we'll see. I disagree with, not disagree. This next viewer writes about AOC, and she's been surprisingly absent and wondering if Schumer put a, quote, muzzle on her. No, I do think Schumer did not like her taking the limelight, but I don't see AOC being bossed around by Schumer that much because she's actually been in the media, just not as much coverage because, and I'll just go over this quickly, just to show you how much the media loves her. She came out recently, and I brought it up on the show. She talked about Stephen Miller and then picked on him for being short and saying how short he was, like 4'10", picked on him for his height, and then said that you have to pick on basically MAGA and mock their lack of masculinity, something like that. Well, she received pushback from her own side, which is typical of the left, because the left, you have to be in 100% adherence to their woke belief of the day. And keep in mind, that changes by the minute sometimes. But if you're not ready and you're on the wrong side of it, they will turn on you. So she did apologize for the height issue and calling out his height. So now, according to the media, AOC touches a nerve with her mockery of MAGA masculinity. She seemingly got under Trump advisor Stephen Miller's skin, and she could hardly contain her happiness after Fox News host Laura Ingraham asked Miller to respond to a viral clip of AOC mocking his height during a live stream she hosted. For what it's worth, AOC later recorded a video saying she carries no bias against short men. Yes, this article has to make sure you know that she was very woke, that she's fine, that she atoned for her sin, because a lot of Democrats, I'm sure, that support her are short, or that 4'10". I mean, that's just human, demographics. So she did apologize. She was primarily referring to how big or small someone is on the inside. Is that what you meant by 5'10"? But the fundamental point in the viral clip, that anti-authoritarian movements can benefit from making a mockery of that which seeks to be menacing. is a point that historians and experts on authoritarianism have also made. Yes, it is now just fact, and keep in mind, this is MSNBC, but it is now just fact that AOC is part of an anti-authoritarian movement. Therefore, Trump is, in their mind, an authoritarian, and this is authoritarianism in whole. To be clear, their argument is not that authoritarianism itself is a laughing matter, but that highlights the ridiculousness of dictatorial figures and their underlings can help chip away at the formidable image they often seek to uphold. Wow. In this case, AOC touched on what one could argue is a sensitive topic for Donald Trump's administration and the MAGA movement, which centers on a hyper-masculine ethos that portrays ideal masculinity as violent, brash, and or willfully ignorant of the world and all its diversity. Enough on that, right? This is by Jahan Jones. Finishing up, officials in the Trump administration seem to disagree, but it's clear that manhood is heavily on their mind. So AOC touches a nerve, is that right? You know, we always have the stories of MAGA Republicans moving away from Trump. I actually have, again, examples of it today. Typical story, a boring, trite, cliche storyline. Here's a new one, though, in the very much the same vein. So are you? Did you think AOC hit a nerve by mocking Stephen Miller? All right, comment. I know that was a tangent on a viewer comment. We've got a couple other viewer comments when we come back. Wrapping up hour number one. Hard to believe. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today with all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. Wow, we have so many comments coming in. I don't even have time to read them before we wrap up hour number one. So we'll kick off hour number two with all of your comments. Keep them coming in. I've been compiling them. Oh, to the viewer, I will read this one. I don't want to leave you hanging. This viewer says, on another note, Bad Bunny headlining the Super Bowl halftime show. And he gives the contact information, he or she gives the contact information for the NFL Commissioner, Roger Goodell. I've got to be extremely careful about that. I looked it up. It looks like it could. If you're upset, I'm sure there's an email, something like that, that you can reach out to the NFL if you're not happy with the Bad Bunny. And I know a lot of people in this audience were not. But please, it's nothing about your comment. It's a great comment. I just have to be very cautious with phone numbers and information I give out. And even though I did some research and it doesn't look wrong, I just bear with me on that. Okay. Coming up in the next hour, Kat Flint will be our guest from Addison, New York. She's via Zoom in Nashville as she's making her way in the country music industry. You're going to hear it's very impressive. I'm really looking forward to having Kat on the program in the 7 o'clock hour. And that'll be right around 7:20. So make sure, if you know anybody in the Addison area or if you're in the Addison area, don't miss that. And I'll be posting it later on our YouTube and on WYDCTV.com. Hopefully she'll post it on her social media as well. Love to have as many Addison fans catch it as possible and surrounding areas. It's not just Addison. I don't live in Addison, and I'm excited for her career as well. Coming up on tomorrow's broadcast, we'll have Debbie Shannon. She's running for Steuben County Legislature in the 12th District. That is the district that encompasses Irwin. We'll have the incumbent, her opponent, James Kuhl, on the program next week. We're getting into election season with less than a month away, so really exciting. Reading your comments when we come back. Hey, I want to thank, do I have time? I do. I want to thank everyone who so far has given to our Alzheimer's walk, our Big Fox team here. There's me and Elisa are going to be walking on Saturday at Eldridge Park for the Walk to End Alzheimer's. We've gotten so many great donations. Thank you so much. It means a lot to us here. It's not too late to donate if you have not had a chance. You see that website right there. You can donate to me. You can donate to Elisa. It doesn't matter because at the end of the day, it all goes to an amazing cause, the Alzheimer's Association, a very important cause. We're honored to be a part of it again this year, just like we did great last year as well because of you. We're honored to be a part of it again this year. So if you have any questions or if you missed that website, please contact me at the number on the bottom of the screen if you're used to texting. Anything from $1 to whatever you want it to give. At the end of the day, as I said, it goes to an amazing cause in the fight to end Alzheimer's. And I'll have to take some pictures and let you know how it goes on Monday after the walk on Saturday. All right, that's it for hour number one. Stay with us. Hour number two, moments away. and welcome to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. And let's get right to it. We have so many viewer comments. I know I keep saying I want to, the big breaking story, and rightfully so, is Trump announcing Israel and Hamas have signed off on phase 1 of the Gaza peace deal. This comes off the eve of the Nobel Peace Prize announcement. So we've been talking about that this morning. We can talk. I don't want to spend too much time on it. I just know we have some fans out there. Marjorie Taylor Greene, your thoughts. This piece from NBC saying, once a loyal foot soldier for Trump, the rhetoric they use, Marjorie Taylor Greene is increasingly bucking her party. From the Gaza war to the Epstein files to the government shutdown, the MAGA-aligned Congresswoman has grown critical of her fellow Republicans. Then I saw another headline at CNN saying, everyone's just getting destroyed. Marjorie Taylor Greene calls on Speaker Johnson to bring House back to D.C. and rails on GOP handling of health care. But this is also weird because she'll vote for something and then after say, whoa, I didn't know this was in here. And it's really very strange. But she gave us an interview. This is what concerns me. I'm just being honest with you. She gives an interview with CNN. It's an exclusive interview with CNN. Quote, everyone's just getting destroyed. Look, Democrats, you created this mess. Republicans, you have no solutions. You haven't come up with a new plan in place, and we're not even talking about it, and it's hurting so many people. But yes, she already voted on the continuing resolution. Anyway, your thoughts on that. I don't want to spend any more time on it. Also, CNN, listen to this headline. Okay, Zach Bryan, now you're a conservative target. Here's what you can learn from the Chicks, formerly known, of course, as the Dixie Chicks. They changed their name. I'm not going to go through this whole piece. You would never see this story for one of the conservatives that the woke culture canceled, would you? Never. All those lives they tried to destroy, they would never say, here's some tips on how to overcome it. The only reason I mention this is because Zach Bryan, of course, wade into the political world, maybe a little bit more than he could chew this time, then came out with a kind of non-apology, not even really apology, but just, because I said something that was very loaded rhetoric against ICE and law enforcement, it goes to show how divided we are, that you got upset with my vitriolic language. So you're the problem. Then he plays the victim. So you prove by being upset that he criticized ICE and criticized law enforcement. Because you got upset, it shows how divided the country is and that he's actually the victim in this. Can you follow that? Well, again, luckily CNN gives him a way to, I would suggest, and I'm not being overly rude here, Zach Bryan was very popular. I don't know if he'll still continue to be very popular. I don't know how country music, I mean, it's always historically been conservative. I don't know how that changes. But I would suggest that taking the trajectory of the Chicks is probably not the way you want to go. Not that they don't still have a career, not that they're still not playing shows, but when that hit with their statements against George W. Bush and like that, they were at the peak of their popularity and it never got back there. In my opinion, maybe you know more than me, but that's what I just witnessing it from the radio world. Okay, let's go to viewer comments that I promised were going to happen 4 minutes ago. Here we go. So many. Oh, I love this. People are sending in, blessed are the peacemakers. Yes, such a powerful and important message that President Trump finished his Truth Social on when it comes to the Israel and Hamas peace deal. So I thank you. I like starting off the hour with that. Okay, comment from a different viewer. Do you think that journalists during the Biden years had to be bored out of their minds? There's a new story every day with Trump. When they think they can focus on government shutdown, the subject changes to the peace deals. It's back to a 40-hour work week for journalists these days. Hear me out on this. You have so much to dissect here because it's a brilliant statement. I don't think they were bored. I think it was during the Biden years, they had to protect him. They had to build him up. That's not to say they worked very hard at it. They just didn't cover him, right? Or if someone tried to cover him, they would attack you and say he doesn't have any mental health issues. How dare you, you conspiracy theorist, these type of things. Okay. So I don't think they were bored out of their minds, but I do think it was a little bit like COVID. Hear me out on this. Someone that was working under the Trump administration so many hours, then they go to work under Biden, and there's no press conferences. There's no long, really press gaggles with the president. There's nothing they really have to do. They just pretty much have to defend a president that's slipping mentally. So they get kind of in that little bit of a vacation mode, like we had in COVID, where you went from working, not everybody. I know not everybody. I know we had our first responders and like that, or frontline workers. I know that, and first responders. But I know there were, so I'm not demeaning anyone out there, but I'm saying some people, their work schedule wasn't as difficult as it was pre-COVID. Or maybe it was work from home, maybe it was Zoom meetings, the like. But it was kind of a little bit of a luxury, taking a little couple breathers. Maybe you didn't have 10 meetings to go to every week like you did before COVID. Okay, fast forward. Trump gets back in. Now, not only do you have the workload that you had before, but then some. Because I would argue that when you say there's a different story every day, there's a different story every hour. Think of the fact that it took us almost an hour to get into the fact that James Comey pleaded not guilty. In a normal news cycle, that would have been top of the show. We would have talked about it for a good chunk of the show. Now we have went through easily, 20 stories? And that's not even focusing as much as we should, and we will in a second, about the peace deal. So yes, the Trump news cycle, and to give you a little inside look from my perspective, if I see a story that I think is going to be very interesting right when the show's over, I print it out, I put it to the side. Now you might say, well, Frank, that's almost old news. It may be overlooked by 30 other different stories if I want to focus on it the next day. Because, for instance, if a story breaks at 8 a.m., it's a pretty big story. Next thing you know, to your point, the government shut down, Jeffries gets in a fight with Lawler. Oh, well, what? Trump signed a peace deal late at night? There are so many stories. It's remarkable. So to prove your point, yes, the media hates it, because we had a story early on where journalists were, quote unquote journalists, were bemoaning the cards they've been dealt. And recently that CNN's Caitlin Collins, she was saying that the journalists dread being on Air Force One with Trump because he never gets any sleep. He's always talking, they're always recording, so they get no sleep along with him. They don't have the work ethic from Trump. The same Trump that they also, J.B. Pritzker tries to claim has dementia, or the same President Trump that the media tries to say, well, he's losing a step. But then on the next side of their mouth, the other side of their mouth, they're saying that Trump is just too busy, has too much energy. See how the media operates? Yeah. I would call it hypocrisy. I'd call it outright lies most of the time, but they seem to have no problem with that. So yes, there was articles saying, now we're going to have to work the weekends sometimes again. Because remember, under Biden, they didn't have to worry about weekends. They had the weekends off. With Trump, look at, for instance, that he may be going to the Middle East over the weekend. The hostages may be released, Trump believes, on Monday, but who knows? So now they have to work again on the media. So it's not me saying it and suggesting that they would be upset. There was articles about, because the media loves focusing on themselves. The media loves making themselves the story. So they were more than happy to write a story about, woe is me, I've got the hardest job in the world. Because trust me, they think that they do. To all of you that are suiting up to go work a very difficult job, keep in mind there's somebody in their cushy office in Washington, D.C. or New York City typing up a piece about how bad Trump is that thinks that they have a harder job than you. And they're confident in it. So they think that they're the hardest working people, so they're more than happy to do an article saying, not only are we hard workers, now we have to work the weekends and late hours. And I know that was a long answer or a long conversation about your comment, but I thought it was a brilliant comment. I think there are a lot of journalists very upset because not only do they have to report on Trump, there's some positive things coming out on Trump. And it's got to be very hard every day for your mental, physical, spiritual self to always try to look for the negative on something, right? And that's what they're doing when it comes to the Trump administration. Opposite under Biden. So you had all that positivity coming from them for 4 years. Now they have to switch gears, on-off switch, and now go to negative. That drains you. So thank you. And sorry for that tangent. This is why I can't get through all my comments. I appreciate it. Comment from a different viewer. When the left is in charge, they behave and do everything like the right doesn't exist. I think the right needs to be more like the left in regards to taking over the reins. Comey will probably only get a slap on the wrist. The government bloat, yeah, if that, I know. The government bloat still consists of mainly left supporters deeply embedded into the Democrat machine gears. Thank you very much. You're very much correct there. Comment from a different viewer. How in the world can a person who is clearly a communist criticize anyone they feel is a fascist? Good question. Another comment. Maybe all New Yorkers should call their 2 senators every day, all day, that of course Chuck Schumer and Kirsten Gillibrand, demanding they open government back up. Better yet, 2 million letters to their offices every day demanding the same. Just a thought. I believe, not to be jaded, I don't think Chuck Schumer, maybe Gillibrand, I don't think Chuck Schumer cares. He's right now worrying about saving face in his own party. Because when his own party was criticizing him for not being enough of the resistance and his poll numbers in his own party down the lowest they've been, and they start talking about an AOC challenger and perhaps him losing his leadership position because he's just too out of touch. I think right now his number one focus, because he knows that a government shutdown is never a good idea. Right now, his number one goal is to save face amongst the resistance, meaning the far left, the AOCs, the Mamadanis. Okay, final comment, and then we got to take a break. Not for the whole show, just for this segment. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. I believe in Trump's negotiating ability, but I do not trust Hamas to keep up their end. After professing the annihilation of Israel for so long, I don't believe they had a change of heart. That's fair. Like I've been saying this morning, trust but verify, be cautiously optimistic. I understand. I think that the conversation, that the hostages, it looks like on paper anyway, will be coming back is a major victory. But I understand your reluctance. I understand everybody's reluctance. That's been the common theme perhaps this morning when it comes to Trump announcing Israel and Hamas signing off on phase 1 of the Gaza peace deal. Nonetheless, it is a major, major story. All right, we got to take a short break. We got one more segment, and then we'll be talking with Kat Flint. So stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking roof cam. Look at that picturesque view of historic Market Street. Beautiful. This morning, thank you to Boss Security for bringing us that view as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Coming up in the next segment, we're going to be talking with Addison's own Kat Flint, who is in Nashville. And we talked with her yesterday, well, live at that time in Nashville. We're going to find out about her career. She's got a new single out called Addison. I'm excited to hear all about it. Okay, let's go to some viewer comments. This is how the media covers Trump, says one viewer. If Trump saves a puppy from a burning building, the media will say he let the building burn. That's a very good point. What was his, I'm paraphrasing, he said in a speech one time that if he found the cure for cancer, I think it was him, that they would say that he was destroying the pharmaceutical industry and that it was horrible for the economy. Not far off, is he? All right, this is a big one, folks. Pay attention. Comment from a viewer. Good morning. Well, first of all, good morning. Just want to give a shout out to our Corning Moose Lodge and its wonderful it's wonderful members, not messages. It's wonderful members. Sunday, I'm going to start right from the beginning. Good morning. Just want to give a shout out to our Corning Moose Lodge and its wonderful members. Sunday, October 19th, our members will be providing and serving the food for the Salvation Army's Shepherd's Table, along with our friends from Corning Catering. Wonderful. Just another example of the lodges giving back through our heart of the community effort. Have a great day. Well, you have a great day. If you're not a member of the Moose Lodge or you want to find out more, highly recommend it. They do so much amazing work for our community. Last year, raised so much money for so many organizations. I just happen to be, in full disclosure, the chairman of the advisory board for the Salvation Army of Corning, and they did so much for the Salvation Army at Wienerville, which was such a fun fundraiser, putting the fun in fundraiser, and they do so much for our community. Thank you. Let me give a big shout out to the Corning Moose Lodge and its wonderful members for helping out the Salvation Army. That is such an important, and Corning Catering, our good buddy, Billy Spalding at Corning Catering, and all the amazing folks at Corning Catering, that I feel like this time of year I may have more Corning Catering meals than any other type of meal, and that's not a complaint. That's a big thumbs up from me. But the Shepherd's Table is such an important service that the Salvation Army of Corning offers, so I can't thank you at the Moose Club, at the Moose Lodge enough, or at Corning Catering. So thank you. Thank you for saying that comment. That was very nice. And always keep us updated on anything going on at the Moose Lodge. They always do, well, amazing fundraisers, and it all goes to, I love it, the heart of the community. It's exactly where it goes. So thank you very much. All right. So President Trump announced that Israel and Hamas have both signed off on the first phase of a peace deal, saying that this means that all of the hostages will be released very soon and Israel will withdraw their troops to an agreed-upon line as the first steps towards a strong, durable, and everlasting peace. All parties will be treated fairly, and he called it a great day for the Arab and Muslim world, Israel and all surrounding nations, and the United States of America. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu declared that the approval of the first phase of the peace plan means all our hostages will be brought home. This all could have been done so much sooner if Hamas would have played ball. But this is a diplomatic success and a national and moral victory for the state of Israel, Netanyahu said. From the beginning, I made it clear we will not rest until all our hostages return and all our goals are achieved. Through steadfast resolve, powerful military action, and the great effort of our great friend and ally, President Trump, we have reached this critical turning point. I thank President Trump for his leadership, his partnership, and his unwavering commitment to the safety of Israel and the freedom of our hostages. God bless Israel. God bless America. God bless our great alliance. So, mediators are planning for a formal agreement between Israel and Hamas to be inked on Thursday, meaning today. Trump told Sean Hannity that he spoke with Netanyahu after the deal and said he expects the hostages to be released on Monday, United States time. A senior White House official explained that the deal will head to the Israeli cabinet on Thursday for approval. The deal goes to the cabinet. Once they vote yes, Israel has to withdraw to the line, which should take under 24 hours. Then the 72-hour clock begins, and Hamas will try to go earlier if possible. Our assessment is the hostages will be getting released on Monday. Now, he had teased the deal earlier in the day. Then, of course, he took to Truth Social, I love this comment, blessed are the peacemakers, that Trump ended his Truth Social on. Roughly 20 living Israeli hostages will be released this weekend. The bodies of at least 28 hostages who died during the 2 years in captivity will be delivered later, though it's unclear if Hamas will be able to locate all the remains, according to sources. Trump, expecting the release on Monday. There is talks of him going to the Middle East over the weekend. So we will see what breaks on that, going to that viewer's point about the never-ending news cycle under Trump. Trump said yesterday that he credited luck and talent for playing a role in getting the peace deal between Israel and Hamas done. The whole world came together, to be honest. So many countries that you wouldn't have even thought of, they came together. The world has come together around this deal. It's very important. So many countries that you wouldn't have thought have wired their best wishes and their commitment to do whatever is necessary. The countries surrounding have all signed. I mean, they all signed up. It's been really an amazing period of time, and so great for Israel, so great for Muslims, for the Arab countries, and so great for this country, for the United States of America, and that we could be involved in, making a deal like this happen, because it was, many years they talked about peace in the Middle East. This is more than Gaza. This is peace in the Middle East, and it is an incredible thing. So again, I asked the question, this happening yesterday, announced on the eve of when the Nobel Peace Prize will be announced, which will be tomorrow. Any chances that Trump receives it? My betting money would go on no. But it would be appropriate at this time, with Trump calling it a great day. Again, blessed are the peacemakers. Netanyahu saying a great day for Israel. Oh, since we've been talking about him too, let's give credit where credit's due. Senator John Fetterman from Pennsylvania congratulated Trump on his historic peace plan, saying, I congratulate the president on his historic peace plan that releases all the hostages. Now, enduring peace in the region is possible. Our parties are different, but we have a shared ironclad commitment to Israel and its people. Good. Congratulations to Fetterman. For saying that, because that is not a popular sentiment, unfortunately. The ironclad commitment to Israel and its people, not a popular position in his party, the Democrat Party, today. All right, we got to take a short break. We're going to be talking with Cat Flint when we return. Really looking forward to this. And then after that, we'll read more of your comments. Please keep the comments coming in. We've had a blast this morning. I think we definitely got more comments than waves. Just people are open to chatting, and I appreciate that. Keep your comments, your opinions coming in, and we'll be right back with Cat Flint after this. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and in the virtual studio this morning, we have Kat Flint. Welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm so excited.
Well, this is great. I saw the big expose in the Addison Post, and what a write-up they gave you.
Right?
So I understand this is 4 years from Addison that you moved to Nashville. What's the experience been like?
It's been amazing. It's a great city. I graduated from musical theater school in Rochester, New York. And then, moved here about 2 months after graduating and started playing with bands, and now being a songwriter, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So what made you pull the trigger? What was that? Because that's got to be a kind of a life-changing decision, right? To move to Nashville and give it a go. So what was it that prompted you?
So it was 2021. So still at the kind of middle of COVID.
Yeah.
So the New York City was all shut down, and that's where I planned on going. And I came here on vacation and saw all the bands and all that kind of stuff. And I was like, you know what? This might be the right move. I can still work. I could still do what I love.
Right.
And Nashville was pretty open then. I made the big decision and came down.
They were kind of open the whole time, I think, in Nashville.
Right,
They're wild, wild west in Nashville.
It was a different world down here.
Absolutely. So you're from Addison, as we kind of hinted towards. How did Addison and kind of the people there shape your music and your style?
I feel like just kind of knowing everybody, but also having that support behind you always. Like even when I was in musicals in high school or did any type of singing stuff, it was always the whole town behind me. And that's how they've always been. And it really is just all about making my hometown proud and being there for them.
Well, it sounds like you absolutely have, because you have a single out basically promoting Addison, correct?
Yeah.
Tell us about it.
So I was just sitting here one night, working on my debut EP, and I was sitting here with friends, and we were talking about Addison, and, all my friends here grew up in Nashville, so they don't really understand the whole, one red light, soccer's the big sport. We don't have football. And they just were just laughing about that. And then I was like, we should write a song about this. Like, this is so funny that you guys don't know any of this stuff. And I had kind of the same experience in high school. And I was like, you know what? I need a good ode to my hometown. I need a good little love song for them. And it just kind of came out very naturally. And it's Addison.
Yeah, exactly. What do people back home say when they hear it?
Oh my gosh, they love it. They're like, I can't believe that you're putting, Addison on the map.
Yeah.
It's so awesome. And then you have all the people from all the other small towns like, oh my gosh, why don't we have a song? And so it's just been fun in that sense, seeing all the reactions to that.
That could be like your kind of side gig. You just start writing songs about small towns all around the Addison area.
Exactly.
So do you make it back home a lot?
I try my best to come home every summer, and I do every fall. Because my parents are still there, so trying to go home as much as possible, and sharing my music to that end of the world too.
Of course. What would you say to those that are just getting into your music, they're just learning about you today? Who were your influences? What is your sound?
I absolutely love the songwriting and storytelling of Casey Musgraves.
Gotcha.
And I love the outspokenness of Maren Morris and the Chicks, and I feel like I apply a lot of that into my original music, whether it's outspoken or just really storytelling and you can really see all the lyrics. That's what I really like to do. Yeah.
Did you always know that you were going to get into music in some way? Has this been your whole life?
So it started out with theater, like you said, and then I competed in the the Twin Tiers Summer Sing Off for
Yeah.
like 4 or 5 years. And then won that the last year they were doing it. So that kind of, made me start writing a little bit and kind of honing in on that. And then I kind of walked away from that a little bit in college. But then when we decided to come to Nashville, I kind of, fell back into that country music
Sure.
love and the honesty and the storytelling of it. And yeah, I'm really glad I decided to continue.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When you say that your parents are still in Addison, did you grow up listening to country music? Were they big country music fans?
I did grow up listening to country music. My mom actually listened to the Chicks when she was pregnant with me.
Well, there you go.
And I feel like that has really just kind of shaped full circle for me.
Yes. Yeah, it works out perfectly.
Yeah.
So you mentioned that you're writing songs. What's that process like for you? You mentioned the Addison song was kind of quick for you, but that's near and dear to your heart. What's the other process like?
So I'm one of those people that I'm really good at just like, writing the lyrics. But when you're in like a co-writing scenario with other people in town, you'll have the person that brings like really good melodies onto the table, or a person that's really good at writing choruses, and it kind of all blends together, and shapes everybody's ideas together. Because like I said, I really didn't start writing songs until I was a little older. So it was really challenging at first, but now I feel like it just kind of comes out naturally. And it's been really cool to meet a lot of the songwriters here in Nashville.
I've always heard that Nashville is kind of like one big family when you live there. Is that right?
Yeah, it's a big community. It's really, really awesome, and everybody's supporting each other, which has been great.
Yeah. So what I mentioned earlier, like what your feeling of Nashville has been, but what's your day-to-day life in Nashville? As someone that's only visited on vacation, that seems fun, but right when you live there, it's a whole different experience.
Yeah, completely different experience. There's people moving here constantly, so there's crazy traffic. There's people coming here a lot, but I work a day job, which you need to just kind of fund your music career, the life of a broke musician. It's just the thing. But yeah, every night I'm down playing on Broadway at Tootsie's, 4-hour shifts.
Wow.
You basically play anything people ask you to play. You kind of have to be a yes man. You learn a lot of songs on the spot.
Yeah.
It's a blast. It's kind of like a flash. It just happens like really quickly, and then you get to go home and write more music and keep singing.
Yeah. Well, so in Tootsie's, it's such a historic bar, right? Anybody that's been in Nashville has to at least look into Tootsie's, if not go in and sit there for way too long.
Yeah.
I've always thought that must be impossible, because if you throw out any song, I know there's that whole system with guitars or something. I'm confused by that, but it is remarkable. It's the best music you've ever heard, and that could be the first time they've played that song. Seems impossible.
It's insane, and I always say it's way more impressive when the guitar player or the bass player or the drummer that's never heard the song before just randomly starts doing it. I could read lyrics all day, but when those musicians just read the Nashville number system,
that's what it is.
Call it.
Yeah.
These they're called charts, and it's just basically like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They just know from reading that how a song goes, and that is just insane to me.
Well, it was like designed for that reason, right? Like session musicians, and then the live shows where they had to learn everything on the fly. Again, if it hadn't been done before, I would say it's impossible, right?
Yeah, right.
It's amazing.
It's insane.
So what's it like playing Tootsie's, though? Because Tootsie's can get wild, I'm sure. And also a fun way, and then probably a terrifying way other nights, depending on the nights. So what's it like when you are playing next to the Ryman, probably the most historic building in Nashville?
It's pretty humbling walking down that alley, every day when I go to work, and you see the footsteps in the back of like Willie Nelson and Patsy Cline, and you just kind of take that all in, and you're like, wow, I can't believe this is my job. And people say that to me all the time. They're like, you have the coolest job in the world. And I really do. It is the coolest thing ever. And there's always country music stars, back there in that alley. Like you just casually are walking past while they're smoking a cigarette or whatever.
Right.
And it's truly insane. But that just comes back to the whole community aspect of Nashville. You could see everybody up close. And just kind of have normal conversations with people, which has been really awesome.
Now, when you play Tootsie's, is it always the same band or is it a different band depending on the night?
Right now I've been in the same band, but I've had, times when I've been down here, like where I've been in like 5 or 6 different bands, and it would be a different band every night. So it just kind of depends on, your schedule for the year or whatever. But this band has really blown together, so we're very comfortable with each other, and it's just really worked out. So.
Do you play other places than Tootsie's? I'm just asking for the business aspect. Is it like you only can play Tootsie's, like is it a contractual obligation?
So it used to be like that, but now they're kind of more open about it. So I kind of just play, wherever I can get a shift. But I really am mostly at Tootsie's, and then randomly I'll be like at Friends in Low Places or Kid Rock's, places all over up and down the street. But it's really cool to see how all the different bar systems work as well.
When you think back to all the times you played at Tootsie's, is there like one most memorable time, or are they all kind of a blur because of the excitement of it?
Honestly, it is such a blur because of the excitement. But when you get those crowds that are just, they love music and they're so passionate and they come back and see you. Like, I've had people that have come back to see me since like one of my first shifts, and it is so cool because you kind of build that little like Nashville fan base that they follow you for the rest of your career, And that's always really, really, really awesome. I always notice the people that continue to come back, and it means a lot.
Other than one of your songs, is there a song that you love to play when you're at Tootsie's because it's just going to bring down the whole place? In a good way, not bring it down in a bad way. I should have worded that different.
I love doing Highway to Hell by AC/DC.
Oh, sure.
People freak out about that song, and it kind of gets people from like every country going, It's not just the people from here. And also Bobby McGee is such a staple, I feel like, in Nashville, especially with the history of Chris Christopherson living in Tootsie's for a while. So him being the writer of that song, it just kind of, I don't know, it takes over the whole building in a sense whenever you sing it, which is really awesome.
Now, you mentioned that, and I don't know a lot about this, so you have to tell me. So you said your debut EP. Tell me about the kind of the who, what, when, where, and why. Is that out now?
It's not out yet.
Okay.
So Addison is going to be the first song from it.
Perfect.
The title of it's going to be Locally Hated. And just kind of a fun play on, I saw a bumper sticker that said that one time, and I was like, that's hilarious.
That's great, yeah.
So that's going to be one of the songs on the EP too. It's going to be 5 songs. And yeah, I'm really excited. I hope everybody loves it as much as I do. I've been working on it for 2 years, so.
Oh, wow. And so when you get that, I'm sure you're going to sell it on your website and things like that, but it must be nice because you can take it with gigs too, right? I'm assuming that you can sell them there.
Exactly. Yeah.
But so there's no time frame on the exact release date when you're going to drop it, as I said?
I hope to have everything out by my birthday, which is November 30th.
Oh, okay.
So.
Well, you got time.
Fingers crossed. Yeah.
Plenty of time. I've never made a debut EP, but that seems like plenty of time.
Yeah,
for me.
Yeah.
So, because I know we've got a lot of people watching from Addison, I'm sure, what do you miss most about Addison when you're in Nashville? Other than family and friends.
Yeah, really, I know I've said Nashville has the community, but it's nothing like, going in any house in Addison and just, it's like, it's home.
Right.
Like, everybody treats you like family, and everybody cares about you in that sense. And there's really nothing like it.
Yeah. Well, I can't wait to hear the whole EP, excuse me. Where can we find out more? The website on the bottom of the screen, probably the best place to go?
Yeah, best place to go, or just on my Instagram or Facebook. I post a lot of updates.
So social media, the website, and I'm sure you can get to the social media from the website. It's all one big web. Okay.
Exactly.
Well, thank you so much for doing this. This was fantastic.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah.
This has been awesome.
Best of luck, and let us know when the EP's out so I can bring it up on the show, okay?
I absolutely will.
All right. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you so much to Kat Flint for being on the program this morning. We really appreciate it. Let's go to some viewer comments. Good morning. Well, hey, good morning. Kat rocks and is a true inspiration. As a mom of a budding musician, I am taking notes. Thank you for sharing your journey with us. What a nice comment. Comment from Farmer John. Kat Flint, with a blue-eyed soul band backing her, blew the folks away at the barn earlier this summer. She is a gem in every way. Her voice, her showmanship, and her family, all in a wonderful experience. Thank you, Farmer John. All right. Let's go to some other comments here. Comment from a different viewer. Hal Kempfer said the hostages have been treated horribly and suggests that it will take them a long time to recover if they ever do. Well, of course. I mean, we've seen some of the horrific nature of the way that the hostages were kept in past releases as well. But obviously a step in the right direction. Rick writes in saying, Trump calls for the jailing of the Chicago mayor and Illinois governor. I know who should be in the pokey, Donald Trump. How can someone who has done so many rotten things to people be sitting in the White House? Goes to show you where people's minds are. It's sick. Send some more forces into the city. People are going to fight back. Well, maybe a phase 1 in Gaza, nothing changes though. Hamas wants Gaza, Netanyahu wants Gaza. Trump wants peace prize, yuck. It'll take billions and billions of dollars, in the words of Trump, to put Gaza back together. All that's left is chunks of mortar and dust. All they'll do is rebuild it and then blow it up again. That's all they do over there is play war with one another. Israel won't be able to take it. They'll start shooting at someone over there. Oh, again, the blame Israel first crowd. Okay, it's always Israel. Yep. I mean, that's, of course, assuming that October 7th, 2023 never happened, but okay. Never changes. Been that way since day one over there. Yes, Netanyahu apparently, according to the comment, Israel and Netanyahu are the ones that are trigger happy. Again, we just have to ignore what happened on October 7th, 2023. And all of that makes sense. I personally look at a step in the peace process as a good thing. I think hostages returning home to their families and loved ones, a good thing. But if people want to look at it as a negative, that is their prerogative. Ken writes in, Trump is a genius. The legacy media works every day to damage, ridicule, and lie about him, his family, and the work he is doing. To combat this, Trump is flooding the zone with live meetings that the public has never been invited to, monopolizing the news cycle. The legacy media has no choice but to cover his live events and are now finding it more difficult to spread their lies when the American people can see what he is doing almost 24/7. You're exactly right, Ken, when it comes to the flooding the zone. I mean, they are covering him. I mean, look at some of these press conferences, how long they're lasting, these cabinet meetings, how long they're lasting. It very much, he is bypassing the middleman, the media, and saying, oh, never mind your commentary, never mind what you're saying here, see it with your own eyes. We have, I don't know if people, you can deny it if you want, if you're anti-Trump. I don't know if there's ever been a more transparent president, not in my lifetime, not in, I think, any of our lifetime. Call in if you disagree. Whether or not you like what he's saying is not the point. When it comes to transparency and being open, sometimes I would even argue that some MAGA Republicans are like, maybe we don't want a 2-hour press conference. I go back to, for instance, when the UN, when they thought it was someone behind the scenes that was funny to stop the escalator and then break the teleprompter. I think there was a lot of people in that audience that said, Trump off a teleprompter can be wild. So, yes, he's very transparent. He is being covered nearly 24/7. It is remarkable. And whether or not they like Trump at the colleges and universities, which I know they don't, it should be studied in a masterclass when it comes to dealing with the media. Okay, Mark writes in, ponder this. If Hamas backs out of the peace deal, they probably will be obliterated, as this is probably their last chance. Yes, good point. Thank you, Mark. And finally, I wanted to mention this. This is not a comment from a viewer, but before we go to break, yesterday we learned the IRS furloughed nearly half its staff because of the government shutdown. Your thoughts on that? Will you be losing sleep? The IRS furloughed nearly half its staff yesterday because of the government shutdown. Let's take a break. A lot more to cover, and we are wrapping up. So get your comments in. We've been having a good show this morning. You can just feel it. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Typing away there, seeing all these comments. Thank you for all the comments. That's our roof cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Some comments here. Steve writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Steve. Entertainment of the day and every day. Watching Trump live rent-free in so many people's heads. There is no cure, just pure, unlimited comic relief. Thank you, Steve. I appreciate that. Trump was praised during the phone call with hostage families after Hamas agreed to the peace plan. If you've not seen this video, highly recommend it. It's at Fox. A group of family members were with Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick when they got the president on the phone for a quick conversation. Upon answering the call, Trump was immediately met with positive remarks and cheers. Multiple people yelling, "Thank you. You did it. This is amazing." One man could be heard thanking the president, saying, "Mr. President, we believe in you. We know you've done so much for us since you became the president, even before that, and we trust you fulfilled the mission until every 48 of the hostages are home. Thank you so much. Blessed be the peacemakers." Another man chimed in, "God bless you, Mr. President. God bless America." What a touching video if you have not had the opportunity to see it. Okay. Let's go through some quick headlines. How about that? And then we're going to read your comments. Pro-Palestinian agitators, anti-Israel protesters, attack the police as a riot erupts in a Democrat-run city of Boston. In total, 13 people were arrested after police say people in the group became violent towards police officers. There's about 200 to 300 participants in the anti-Israel demonstration in Boston. When officers attempted to move the group to the sidewalk to allow emergency vehicles to pass, protesters surrounded police cruisers, kicked vehicle doors, and resisted dispersal efforts. Several officers were assaulted during this period, including one struck in the face. Protesters also ignited smoke devices and flares, further endangering officers and bystanders. Okay, Trump threatens to jail elected officials. Colby Hall writes, it is a constitutional alarm the media can ignore. Yes, if there's one thing I know, is the media has ignored anything Trump. I know that the media has been just so kind to Trump and haven't thrown out terms like constitutional alarm, constitutional threat, authoritarianism, fascism, never thrown those out. So it's good that Colby Hall has finally goaded the media into paying attention to Trump and the dangers of Trump. And make no mistake, the alarm should be loud. The alarm should be unmistakable, because if the press cannot sound it, who can? Adam Schiff said we can't rule out Trump launching a military strike on domestic groups. Okay. J.D. Pritzker said that they will not back down in Illinois. Anyway, okay. Mayor Johnson said, this is not the first time Trump has tried to have a black man unjustly arrested. I'm not going anywhere. Okay. The Hill claims, and this always scares me, but this goes to the point of all the articles that they do. Republican senators question Donald Trump's use of the National Guard across state lines. This comes after stories of senators are concerned about mass layoffs with the government shutdown. Everybody's scared. And voicing their concerns to far-left outlets like The Hill, Politico, and others. But Miranda Devine has a piece that we will not be able to get to. The Dems are letting Antifa take over their cities. Trump is right to send federal troops to maintain order. All right, we got to wrap up. Stay with us. Last break. Get those last-second comments in, and we'll be right back. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, wrapping up today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Let's go to some viewer comments. The way the media portrays things, you would think the world is coming to an end. You sure would. Even presenting a potential peace plan between Israel and Hamas as a negative, I would agree. The world, in their mind, is coming to an end. Comment from a different viewer. If Trump switched parties and became a Democrat, would there be a court battle? I think only because Republicans would want him back. That's a good point. That's a fun one to ponder on. Mark writes in, I listen to Kat's song, Addison, on YouTube. She is awesome. Have a great day. Well, you have a great day too, Mark. Thank you. That's in reference to Kat Flint being our guest this morning. We really do appreciate it. We'll have that posted on WYDCTV.com and our YouTube page if you missed it or if you want to spread it to your friends and neighbors. If you have an opportunity, please find the video of California gubernatorial hopeful Katie Porter trying to storm out of a CBS interview after what was a simple question over Trump. It was really a biased question against Trump. I guess this was the question. What do you say to the 40% of California voters who you'll need in order to win who voted for Trump? After a little back and forth, Porter snapped and said, I feel like this is unnecessarily argumentative. What is your question? And more back and forth. I don't want to keep doing this. I'm going to call it. I want to have a pleasant, positive conversation. And if every question you're going to make up a follow-up question, then we're never going to get there. I originally printed this out to prove that a Democrat could never live one day as a Republican because there's only follow-up or false fact-checking during live interviews. In this case, it was an easy softball question that she could not answer, and she walked away, and she was upset. I don't want this all on camera, she said. Then we learned later in the day that there was another video released of her ruthlessly excoriating a staffer during a discussion on environmental policy because her aide, her staffer, was in the background, innocently popped up in frame. Get out of my blanking shot, she yelled at the staffer. Okay, you were also in my shot before that. Stay out of my shot. Sounds like a pleasant woman to work with. I know there was charges in the past of her husband being a victim of domestic violence. She said she was a victim of domestic violence. There was a back and forth. It seems to be an anger issue. Even fellow Democrats were attacking Katie Porter over this. The clip of Katie Porter's displeasure is going viral. Porter may be hinting at a primary strategy. Use her campaign's money to lift up a Republican into the top two for the general election. Adam Schiff did this with Steve Garvey. Okay, trying to protect her. Politics aside, this is the arrogance that has permeated politics in California at the state and local level. They have become your parent. They don't work for you. On that note, we are out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you for all the great comments. Thank you for everyone who joined us. My goodness. Thank you to Kat Flint for being our guest. That was fun talking with her. Tomorrow, Debbie Shannon running for Steuben County Legislature in the 12th District. That's the district that encompasses Irwin. She'll be our guest. Please join us. This week went fast. This show went fast. And we'll talk to you every weekday morning starting at 6 for Frankly Speaking, only on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I look forward to talking with you tomorrow.